Welcome back to the Mackem In The Middle podcast. I'm joined by John once again to talk about today's game. Actually recording it on the day of the game today. It's the first draw of the season, John, but ultimately feels like the second defeat of the season.
I think it's a little bit when you're in that winning position, 2-0 up, 80 minutes gone. I think we've got to control the game, see the game out. They get a stupid goal, and then we're making substitutions where we're probably inviting pressure a little bit, and as we've seen, those things can happen. The only thing I'll probably take from it is maybe it's a learning curve for Johnson and for the squad at the moment. But yeah, it feels very raw, shall we say?
Yeah, and I think I've said it to you. I know I've said it to Kyle a few times as well about Lee Johnson this season. I think just about every game we've played, he seems to have brought Bailey right on in the last 10, 15, maybe even 20 minutes of the game just to see it out. And it worked in every game up to now. Obviously, we've talked about it a little bit here, saying inevitably one day it is going to come back to bite us. And it did today. Obviously, Bailey Wright started, but it was Alves that came on. Evans came on for Neil, who we'll get onto as well later. We did go very defensive. We conceded the goal late in the game, and then obviously conceded with the last kick of the game with a penalty. But it's one of them where Johnson will probably look at and think, right, this has cost us now. In his mind, he probably knew it was going to cost us eventually, but he has to make sure not to do it again, because we do have a tendency now to. It's not even at 2-2 up. We were 2-0 up today and probably should have seen the game out. But in the other games, we've been 1-0 up. He's done the same thing, brought an extra defender on, seen the game out. But we conceded and we just had nothing going forward for the last 10 minutes.
Well, yeah, like we say, it's becoming almost predictable. Teams can say, let's try and stay in the game. Even at 2-0, you can stay in the game. We know Sunderland within 80 minutes are going to bring on a central defender, take one of their forwards off. Then we can push forward as a team, and it's too predictable. It's almost like it's just a game plan, no matter how the game's going. Like I said, we don't want it to become predictable. It needs to be reactionary as opposed to, let's make sure if we say, for instance, I don't know, we take off Gooch and maybe give, I don't know, Deaku a chance on the wing, a like for like, and keep it there. I think, even in McGeady said in his post-match interview, when we made a few of the substitutions, it was a little bit like, we lost that imbalance and we sort of invited them on and we didn't need to. Whereas if we go toe to toe with them, then that's when teams will struggle. They're not always going to get their chances, but we're normally taking ours when we go forward. And the substitutions today absolutely baffled me. I think every single one of them. I thought, we'll probably touch on the obviously the individual performances, but just some stupid things that they just really frustrated me. Even as simple as Luca 9 taking a booking when he probably doesn't need to, because the ball's, if you watch it, the ball's actually rolling out of play.
Yeah.
So he takes a booking, and I think on one of the goals, I think he lets his man run because he obviously can't pull him back. So he's almost like done just stupid little things like that. I'd like to have maybe seen 09 maybe come off for Evans, keep Neil on, and let's just keep the ball moving, because when we passed, we absolutely murdered them pass wise, but it's not about passing, but it's about managing the game, seeing the game out, and that's what we've struggled to do today, and obviously we've ultimately paid the price for it.
And I suppose it's probably not necessarily the way you should think, but if 09 does come off for Evans there, it's one more tactical foul, in the middle of the pitch to slow down the play or to stop a counter attack that you can get away with that ultimately we didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just a little. Honestly, as soon as because I know Luca 9 is not going to come off, we know that, but the ball's rolling out of play. You don't need to then absolutely yank him back. I think we even had half decent numbers back as well. It's just little decisions which, as a right back, he probably would have took that decision. But as a central midfielder, it's a little bit different thought process. And I did say last week 09 played really well, contrary to a lot of what other people said. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he he starts in the middle of midfield, this week. I'm sure Corey Evans was good enough. And it was more, I don't think it was as a physical game, maybe as it was last week. And it would have been the perfect game to slot Corey Evans back in there, keep the ball moving, bring Luca Knight on just to shore it up. That way. It's just little things today. We're probably nitpicking it because because we haven't won. If we'd have won, it'd have been, well, it doesn't matter because, the result came in. There's a few. I'm not quite sure why Dan Neil had to come off because I thought he does keep the ball moving. I think Elliot Embleton drifted out more than Dan Neil did, I think, in the last stages. I'm not quite sure why Broadhead came on. Obviously, he probably needs a chance, but didn't really make any difference. And if you're swapping in for Pritchard, who's come on every week with the predictable substitutes, he does actually keep the ball up the pitch. He's renowned for that, and that would have been another a shoe-in substitution. So yeah, very, very frustrating.
Yeah, and just looking at the results that Sunderland have had so far this season, you've got a 2-1 against Wigan, 2-1 against Port Vale, 2-1 against MK Dons, a 1-0 win against Wimbledon, a 3-2 win against Blackpool, another 1-goal advantage there, and the same against Accrington. Apart from the Wigan game, which even then we did concede in, we haven't comfortably won a game scoreline wise. You look at performances and say, well, we comfortably won that. We dominated the game, dominated shots on target, etc., etc. Based on scoreline, we haven't blown any team away yet this season. Whereas there's a few teams in this league. I know Wigan have just won. I think it was 4-1 away to Accrington. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure on any other results, but there will be some. It is somewhat of a worry. I don't know if I want to say it's a worry, but it could grow into a concern, if this carries on. The fact that we are winning games by 1 goal maximum, what seems like so far this season when we do win.
Yeah, and I think Johnson touched on that a little bit, and McGeady, obviously both saying at half time, saying, look, we need to score like 2 or 3 here to get to actually get results. So we know we've got that conceding in us, at the moment. And it's another it's just a little thing that might just be there in the players' minds, thinking, look, and that's probably a reactionary thing to Wright coming on as well. But there's going to be teams where we are going to absolutely take them apart and not concede. Those results will come. But I think at the moment, the football that we're playing, I think there is that sort of that risk that you maybe will get, caught out. Obviously the goals today will, we could easily dissect them. I'll put easily down to first one is a bit of a Bailey Wright brain fart, should we say, where he's sort of just, a guy's got his back to goal, so he comes steaming out and he doesn't, he leaves a massive hole that wouldn't have been there when Flanagan was there, and Doyle can't make up the space, and then you give them a chance, and obviously in last minute we've all seen it what happened, but if you're going to wrestle, doesn't matter if the referee hasn't given any of them all game, the potential is there to give it to him. Don't give him a decision to make. You don't need to, just get your body there, be stronger. And I thought we did that really, really well, apart from, the Bailey Wright incident. So, on another day, it's a 2-0 win. And maybe if we stayed like for like, it would have been, probably a 3 or a 4. I think even McGee even said that, he was thinking at 2-0, we probably will go on and win this sort of 3 or 4-0.
Yeah.
So it's a nice, I don't want to say nice, but it's a reality check. Maybe we just needed just to come on. We know we're top, but less obviously we're top.
Yeah.
But let's not take our eye off the ball. Every single result, every single goal matters. We need to be a little bit more ruthless in front of goal. I wasn't impressed today with, I'd say finishing, but I wouldn't have said we had that many chances.
I think it was maybe 4 or 5 that just McGeady probably had that he's put over the bar. On another day, he probably gets a hat-trick.
Yeah, he's another one today. Just frustrated me. I think sometimes you need to. I don't even know what the answer is. Is we need to look for a better ball, or does he need to play the whole 90 minutes? I think that's the reason Diaku's been brought in, because I wasn't impressed with Gooch either, barring his one shot that was obviously well saved. So those two need competition. So if they're not flying, which at the moment, I'll be honest, I don't think they both are. These players need proper stiff competition. Say, look, if you're not giving it to us, we've got someone waiting in the wings who is, and we need that competition, and that brings out the best, in everybody. Ross Stewart was all right again today, great finish. A couple of times we didn't really give him the right balls into the middle. The amount of times that he was somewhere and the ball just went to the other part. It didn't really click in front of goal, obviously, apart from his goal.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just a little bit of a wake up call for us.
Yeah. Well, the team that started was, I think, pretty much what everyone predicted. And even though I knew Flanagan was suspended, I still, for some reason, had left him in the team lineup on FanHub. So I had to lose a point for that. But it was Hoffman in goal, Winchester, Doyle, Bailey Wright in for the suspended Flanagan, Dennis Serkin, O'Neill, Neil, Embleton, Gooch, McGeady, and Stewart. Obviously, the one change, Bailey Wright, for me, I said before the game, I wanted to see Alves play. I think he's more suited to the kind of the style of football that we play when we're trying to get that opening goal and build on it. I think Bailey Wright's the type of defender, I would have said that before today's game, he's the type of defender that you would bring on, in the dying minutes just to see out the game. Ultimately, that didn't really happen, but realistically, it was always going to be Bailey Wright that came in for Flanagan, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. I think we said, or I certainly said last week, I think Alves is more of your Doyle replacement, for when we need it, and Bailey Wright's the Flanagan replacement. It probably shows you today, because there was a few rumblings in the summer of obviously Bailey leaving, and Johnson, I think, quite ruthlessly hung him out to dry a little bit in one of his interviews, saying that Bailey Wright just hasn't been, the owners haven't seen the best of him, so he knows he's not playing, that well. I've seen a few people on Twitter say, "Oh, he's just a bit rusty," but I'm not having rustiness put down to those 2 goals today. I can't be doing that. And I genuinely didn't think we'd be saying this, but we cannot wait for Mr. Dependable this season, Tom Flanagan, to be back in.
Yeah.
And when would we have said that? Over the last few seasons.
Yeah, he is literally probably the most important player in that back line at the moment, isn't he? Weirdly.
Yeah, he's got that seniority, hasn't he? He's got obviously Doyle with the strength and pace next to him, and I think Doyle needs him as well. I think they work really well together, and nothing stupid from Flanagan. Give it to Doyle; he can plant the ball. Obviously, Winchester helps in there, having a nice assured right back there, and even Serkin at left back today I thought was decent enough. So yeah, that's obviously our first choice back four. I'd like to maybe see it broken up on Tuesday just for the Carabao Cup. And let's be honest, we're not going to win it. Let's literally mix it up. Johnson said the other day we've got the team in training they played two sides, 11-a-side teams from the first team squad, and he said it was ridiculous, some of the teams that were on the the not selected 11 for the team.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of players in there who need a good 90 minutes, and let's see what they can do. And it should be a free for all in fairness, because I don't think everyone was on top of their game today. It should be a free for all Tuesday for other players to sort of step up and show that they can cut it in the league as well.
Yeah. We've already touched on a large part of the game, so we'll kind of keep this to somewhat of a minimum. Obviously, Ross Stewart did open the scoring. We've mentioned that header, Embleton, great ball in from a free kick for him, and it's a good header from Stewart, 1-0. And then second half, Sunderland are rewarded a penalty, and it's very similar to me to the one that Fleetwood got, to the point where I think if you were to watch 100 games of football, 99 of them, you'll not see a penalty given for that. And I think that does kind of play on the Fleetwood penalty. I think if he doesn't give the 09 one, the 09 one, he probably wouldn't give the one for Fleetwood. But it's a soft penalty that we've got, and then ultimately conceded one as well.
Yeah, they're very soft, but in the eyes of the game, they are. I think they went for a stage, didn't they, in VAR, where they just constantly in the Premier League just literally smashed, and everyone was smashed through them, and everyone was just getting a penalty.
Yeah,
that's the only way to eradicate that, because we know it all goes on. Literally in every league. Is the push and shoving, the pulling the shirt, and like you say, the referee's probably got when he given us our penalty, which I'm not quite sure. In the eyes of the law, it's obviously a penalty, but yes, it is fairly soft. But we've got it. I think the amount of time that their players spent around the referee, obviously berating.
Yeah.
As soon as it was going up the other end, it's going to be a no-brainer in it, and it is what it is. It is just one of them. We've got to suck it up, and Bailey Wright still shouldn't be. He should have learned even from that. Even half the team should be saying, look what he's given us down there. You have to. I don't even think the striker was going to do anything. The ball's looping over to Hoffman.
Yeah, back to goal.
He's obviously called for it, and he's just got all over his shirt, and it's just one of them. Like I say, we've got very soft penalties, and his referee's got it half on his mind. I need to maybe even the stakes, and it's cost us.
Yeah, and I think I don't think it was just me. I think it was even Danny, Frankie on the stream as well. With both penalties, you kind of had to look 2, maybe 3 times to actually see what he's given the penalty for. I posted on Twitter after the game, and I had 4 or 5 people telling me it was for an O'Neill handball that they got their penalty, which it wasn't. I don't think. I think Lee Johnson confirmed that it was for the shirt pull. And again, there was questions whether the penalty was for the hold on O'Neill or the push on Doyle for our penalty. And I think when you've got penalties like that, where even when you watch a replay 2 or 3 times and you still can't decide what it's given for, it's probably not a penalty. But ultimately, it sets a precedent now where, if we go into this game on Tuesday against Wigan, it's another EFL referee. As soon as you see shirt pulling in the box, based on this game now, it's a penalty.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, with us being a bit savvy, we've got to get the referees here straight away early on and say, look, we're just watching the box, and that does go both ways. We need to learn from that, stupidity, because it is stupidity, let's be honest, because it's blatant in the referees, because the referee's constantly watching. He's not watching the corner coming in. He is watching what you're doing in the box. And if you just mark your player, stay with your man, and then just jump with him and try and win the header, that's all you can do. You stop pulling shirts and grabbing, then you're in dangerous territory. And soft or not, they're allowed to be given, and that's the rules of football, and that's how it's been. When you get punished, you'll probably think, oh, it's soft, and when you don't get punished, you'll be, you'll think, oh, I got away with that one. And I think for too long they probably have got away with it, and some referees are just picky, and it's literally, you could get any referee on another day. He waves them both away, and we're probably maybe looking at 1-0 win or a 1-1. So it's just who you get.
Yeah. Well, McGeady scored our penalty and made it 2-0. Not too long left to play in the game. Kind of plain sailing at that point. Looked like it was going to be another 3 points. It didn't take long for Fleetwood to put one back. And again, Billy Wright, we've mentioned a lot. He's kind of stepped up a little bit. He's left a lot of space in behind him. They've played the ball through, cut all our defenders, all our midfielders out of the game, and it's a good finish past Hoffman. But again, he's been a championship centre back for so long. He's been captain of Bristol City. He's probably one of the most experienced EFL players in the squad. It's just a stupid mistake and just poor positioning for the goal. Realistically, obviously the penalties actually earned them the point, but that's the goal that changed the game.
Yeah, of course it is. 2-0 is the dangerous scoreline. As soon as they get one, their tails are up and ours are on the back foot. But like we were saying earlier, the guy's got his back to goal. He's not suddenly going to turn into Lionel Messi and skin like 3 of our players and go through on goal. So there's no need, close the space. If you close the space, there's nothing for anyone to run into.
Yeah.
And I think not just saying it, but I think Flanagan probably would do that and hold the line. But yeah, it's I can't say anything than I have already. Yeah, it's absolute. Yeah, I think, like you say, that has probably cost us that mistake.
Yeah. Like I say, 96 minutes, Fleetwood get the penalty, earn the point, finishes 2-2. Lee Johnson wasn't happy with the decision, and again, if you give him one, you've got to give the other. So I don't really see where he's coming from with that. He does come under a bit of criticism for the subs that he's made, for the fact that he does like to sit back for the last 15-20 minutes of a game, and that's what's ultimately cost us the day. But in the long run, it's away from home. I think McGeady said in his interview, I haven't actually checked up on this, that we haven't actually won away to Fleetwood since we dropped down in League One. I don't know if that is the case, but it could still be a big point come the end of the season.
Yeah, of course, good. Yeah, so obviously, to quote McGeady, he said, years gone by, we've fell short, and because we go to places like this and we don't win, we were very, very close to winning. The reason we probably haven't won is of our own downfall and not someone else's. So that's something to learn on. Another point on the board. Titles are not won in September.
Yeah.
We need to keep doing what we're doing. Obviously not Bailey Wright, but the rest of them. Do you know what I mean? And just go under the radar. I've seen a lot of times where we don't get players in team of the week and because of stats, because I'm not interested in any of that. Let's just worry about ourselves, keep doing our thing. It's going to take time. We've got a lot of youngsters. You maybe would expect the things that Bailey Wright did from some of the youngsters, not Bailey Wright, but it's just one of the things we're still learning. We still need to learn, I think, with this young group, of how to just manage games and take the sting out of them. I think the substitution didn't help with that today. But like you say, point on the board, and we can go again next week. It's if we obviously the midweek cup game doesn't really matter to me, but if we go next week and beat Bolton, then I'll be a lot more happy than I am sort of this evening.
Yeah, and I'm kind of on the same page with the cup game, but with it being against Wigan, the fact that we've just dropped points today, if say we would lose against Wigan, say Charlie White gets a goal against us, it's inevitably going to turn some fans.
Yeah, maybe. Obviously, we've got to weigh up. We've got to weigh up what the team is. I'd expect he is going to make changes because the Bolton game, is a big one. In fairness, it's the last of the so-called top six teams at the moment who we've got to play. So, like I said, we're not going to win the carrot. Don't get me wrong. Everyone in this squad
Have a chance.
Whatever team we put out, in fairness, is going to give Wigan a game. The changes that we can make. Huggins plays. He's played at a fairly decent level with Leeds. I don't know if Hume's fit enough to play. Maybe centre back Alvers. He's got to get some minutes in because we can't keep having Bailey Wright coming in. But Virgil probably might get the nod. We know what he is. A couple of Corey Evans maybe will get sort of 60 minutes to get him in line for Saturday. Pritchard, I could talk all day about the squad that we've got. Aidan O'Brien, is another one. I don't think he was even in the squad today.
No.
Broadhead, maybe up top and see what he's got, because Ross Stewart went down and limped a bit, and you're thinking, Christ, if he's injured, and we don't want that on a silly midweek game. Don't get me wrong, keep it competitive, keep the squad competitive, but let's not be stupid. Let's use it properly, like we did at Blackpool. But Saturday's the big one. I think we need to get out of this league. We don't need to win the Carabao Cup. Would be lovely to win, but let's concentrate on getting out of this league, and that's what all the focus should be on, I think.
Yeah, definitely. We'll move into player ratings. We'll start with Hoffman, who I went with an 8 out of 10. First half, he made that triple save. I think the third save was after the whistle had been blown. I think it was for an offside or a push or something, but ultimately, he still got to make the save, and it was a great save. Another big save in the second half that at the time I thought, might have been one of the big moments, because at the time we were 2-1 up, a few minutes left to play, and, was thinking that might have been the save that got us 3 points. Ultimately, it didn't. But with the goals, a penalty, keepers aren't really expected to save penalties, and I don't think there's too much you could do with the opening goal for Fleetwood. So I've got an 8 for Hoffman.
Yeah, same. I've gone with an 8. Looked much more assured. Good on the ball. Nice calming influence. What we like, as we said, the saves he made were brilliant. Not really any chance for the goals. I think maybe if it goes the right way, he probably saves it. But that's just one of them. But yeah, I was really impressed with him today. Yeah, an 8.
He's got a hell of a throw on him as well, hasn't he?
He has. Yeah, I was quite impressed with his footwork as well. I was, sometimes Lee Bird gets it back there, and you're like, go on, you just shank it out. But yeah, I was very impressed, to be fair. But training with Manuel Neuer every day for a few years,
it's going to rub off on you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Winchester, again, at right back. Less involvement today, I would say. Certainly in a attacking sense, but everything he did, he still did it well. Still quite a few times where he did carry the ball forward and just kind of, slowed it down a little bit. And possibly could, have had a shot or two. If there was 30,000 fans screaming shoot, no doubt he probably would have. But defensively did well, so I've went with a 7.
Yeah, same. I've gone with 7. I thought he was quite just literally, you thought the ball's out or going into no man's land, literally out of nowhere. Carl Winchester, the amount of times he did that.
Yeah.
And I think he almost put Gooch to shame a few times because of the way he was just going forward and going past players, and that's what we're expecting from Gooch. So I think he played really well today. And like you say, Mr. Dependable back there, but maybe midweek give him the week off.
Yeah. Well, the week off, not the full week.
Off, yeah.
The weekdays off.
Saturday.
Cam Doyle again started, and start of the season he did like that kind of switch. He'd get on the ball and she'd play that switch out to Gooch. And I think teams have started to figure that out a little bit more. And I don't really think we've seen it too much recently. I think it was once he did it today. Once again, he was caught in possession. Trying to bring the ball out, looking a bit too comfortable on the ball, a bit too. Not sure what the word is, but he was caught on the ball, and luckily he didn't. That's the one, something like that. But he was caught on. Yeah, he recovered well, and ultimately went off the corner. So I went with a 6 for Doyle.
Yeah, same. I've gone for 6. I thought his game just sort of went by with him. If you know what I mean, I didn't really make any sort of major notes or observations with him. Just sort of went through the game. I think he maybe missed Flanagan. If you've been used to Flanagan for the last sort of 6 weeks, then ultimately you are going to probably change your ways with with Bailey Wright in there. So we'll maybe give him that. But yeah, he was okay today.
Moving on to Bailey Wright. For a large part of the game, I thought it was just like a typical Bailey Wright performance. Nothing fancy. He just did what he needed to do. Was like a no-nonsense defender. Was strong in the tackle. Won a lot of his duels in the air. But ultimately, the 2 goals that we have conceded that have cost us 2 points today come down to his errors, really. He stepped in, flare goal, allows the space in behind, and again, 96 minute, he's pulling the shirt off the back of the attacker and gave away the penalty. So I've went with a 4 for Wright. Yeah,
same. Probably going 4. Apart from that, like you say, just a run-of-the-mill Bailey Wright performance, and then 2 mistakes that we know has cost us. If he'd have won the game, he probably would have gone to, I don't know, a 5, but he has cost us. So yeah, goes on to 4. And we, in fairness, we can't expect that from a centre back. Not, it's not like he's been done for pace and you take that on the chin. This is 2 glaring mistakes, and that's that's on him, and that just shows you at the moment.
Yeah.
Fair play to Johnson. Could he easier to in, and but he just ultimately just hasn't been good enough, and he showed that today. He's not good enough. He's not a player here, and I think that's all he will be. So yeah, get him. You can stop picking up bookings, Thomas.
Yeah. Left back, Dennis Serkin again started. Obviously, Denver Hume signed a new contract. So he's got some competition now, as opposed to just sticking Dan Nealon behind him. But I thought he was good today, comfortable on the ball, defended well. Just you can tell that he does have a lot of potential, and you can see why Tottenham fans did rate him as a young player. Like I say, he is still young. He's got a lot of areas to develop, a lot of areas to improve. But ultimately, by each game, he does look like he's getting better. So I went with a 7 for Serkin.
Yeah, same. I thought he combined it well with McGeady on the left. Solid defensively, and yeah, I thought he went forward quite well. To be fair, it's probably the best game I've seen him play for us. So, like you say, he's young, still learning, and we know we've got a good player on our hands, I think.
Yeah. Midfield, Luke O'Nien, as he always does in midfield, battles well, played the ball well when he had possession, picked up the early yellow card, which again wasn't particularly necessary, but he stayed on the pitch for the rest of the game and didn't really affect him at all. You often see a player get a yellow card and they kind of whimper out of the 50-50s or the headers, but I think it was literally a minute or 2 after he got the yellow card. He went in with 2 headers, he went all in for it, and don't think he could really fault him too much today, or at all, really. So I've went with an 8 for O'Nien. I think Danny Collins went for him as man of the match as well.
I'll probably go with a 7. It probably sounds quite harsh. The only reason I put him down is for reasons earlier. I think he's got to see that the ball's going out of play. He doesn't need to yank him back, and we are going to need that. He's obviously made a quick split decision, but I think it's just he's just done us out of one of those, when we did have the goal, that's the perfect time to do it. The guy's going out wide, the ball's going out of play. Just come on, just a little bit of, thought process behind it. I think Evans in there is maybe a little bit more savvy with that. But yeah, same as last week, very industrious. Let's the other two, do their thing. Stuck his head in there and is an absolute trooper. So that's the only reason I probably knock him down to a 7. And that's probably quite nitpicky, but it just did frustrate me.
Yeah. Daniel again started alongside him, and he wasn't allowed as much space today as he sometimes gets on the ball, and that kind of affected the ability that he has to kind of play that killer pass. I think there was one time that he did play an excellent through ball to Stewart, but it was called offside. Not sure why he was taken off. Like you've said, when you not when you're chasing the game, but when you're 2-0 up or 2-1 up, teams will come at you. The defence will play higher. When you've got someone like Neil who can play the ball in behind, it could have been that 3 or 4-0 that McGeady talked about, but ultimately he was taken off. But I've got a 6 for Neil for the time that he was on.
Dan Neil.
Yeah.
I think he was fairly quiet. Like you say, he didn't have a lot of space to play. I still think he's the one who can play the 90 minutes and keep the ball. It was very crowded in the middle, if we're being honest, but I still think he was very good at just finding space. There was a bit where I was just watching him just find space. He didn't even have the ball. I was just literally watching him sort of peel out and get space. And I think he's the one. Emerson was one who obviously set up the goal. I just think Dan Neil I don't know, is you're in between your Corey Evans and your Embleton of just keep it, recycle it, pick your moments, keep it, recycle, pick your moments. And I think we did miss that when he went off, but the manager's obviously made his decision, and we'll go with that. But yeah, I thought probably a 6.
Yeah. Moving on to the front four, Elliot Embleton, obviously he's got the assist for Stewart's goal. I'm not sure how many goals he's actually assisted of Stewart this season, but I think it's possibly most of them. But again, I think similar to the Accrington game, I think it was 1 or 2 occasions where he's kind of been played through on goal and just slows down a little bit to kind of get control of the ball before taking the shot, and it was blocked again. I don't know whether he lacks pace. I haven't really seen him run at full speed, so I'm not sure how quick he is. But I think he just struggled a little bit in the final third again, so I went with a 6.
Yeah, same. I thought he struggled a bit, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he did. Did he stay on the pitch the whole game?
Ooh, good question. I don't think he did.
But in saying that, I just didn't notice. I didn't really notice. Sort of the last half an hour of anything. I like him to maybe drop in deep then, and again, like Neil, the ball.
So I think he came off for Broadhead. It might have been Embleton. I think it was.
Oh, fair enough. Then I've probably done him a disservice there, but yeah, he's he does need to be a little bit more ruthless on goal. We'd probably admit that himself. But he got the assist, kept the attacks flowing, especially first half. So I'll probably go over 6.
Yeah. Gooch, I went with a 6 when I've done the report after the game. I'm probably going to say a 5 because Embleton essentially got the assist and Gooch really did nothing in the game by that shot that we've mentioned before. And again, just too many times he gets in the final third, tries to make things look a lot more difficult than they are. You've mentioned there Winchester, he just kind of runs past players, whereas Gooch, for some reason, has this obsession with trying to skin the player. Can just knock the ball past him, get a ball into the box early, and he'd probably score quite a few more goals this season, get a few more assists, but he doesn't do that. So, against Wigan, I think he's probably going to get dropped, and realistically against Bolton, obviously depending how the others do on Tuesday night, I'd probably have him on the bench as well. But I've went with a 5 for Gooch.
Yeah, I totally agree. He's one of the ones at the moment. It's just frustrating me a little. If Aidan McGeady for whatever reason is not, on absolute fire, and a lot of players will think about him, the person on the other side really does need to maybe step up a bit. And at the moment, haven't been that impressed. I think the only reason he does get the nod is because he does do the defensive work. But it overcomplicates things. He did have that one shot, but still just relatively quiet. And like you say, maybe he's one for taken out of the side on on Tuesday, and let's see if we see a reaction, after that, because I think that you do need that a little bit, maybe just to give him a little bit of fire in his belly. But we'll see how the other players do on Tuesday.
Yeah. McGeady, again on the other side, took a penalty and scored it. The keeper went the right way, but ultimately it was too far in the corner for him to save. A few efforts he had in the first half and in the second half that went just wide or just over. And again, on another day, he probably scores maybe 2 of them and gets a hat-trick, and we win the game 4-5-0. But we didn't. We drew 2-2 and he didn't dispatch them goals. But with the fact that he's got the penalty, he was quite neat on the ball. I'll go with a 7. I think he was possibly just better than Embleton, but not excellent. So yeah, 7.
Yeah, I'll go for 7. He probably would have been knocked up maybe 1 or 2 if. I think that save of the keeper's quite underrated. I think it's near 9 on going on top corner, and the goal, the goalkeeper to sort of tip it around, like I was expecting the net to ripple. But yeah, scores a penalty. That'll probably do him his confidence a bit. Do that the world of good. I wasn't super impressed, but he does look sharp. Things are still coming off. He's getting in those positions. I'd like him to be a little bit, I can't believe I'm saying this, but a little bit more. I don't know, the shots is sometimes he's just trying to absolutely smash them, and they're going over. Just take, maybe just a little bit of care. And with his quality, he'll be an absolute asset for us going forward. But yeah, 7 out of 10 today.
Yeah. Moving on to the last player, the first goal scorer, Ross Stewart. Obviously, another headed goal from Embleton's cross. Work rate was again excellent, and I think the only criticism that I really have of Stewart this season and again today was he is a striker that does like to get on the shoulder of the last man. And for me, he just gets caught offside a little bit too often. I think he had a goal. Actually, no, it was Flanagan that got a goal disallowed for offside. But it was 2 or 3 times today where Dan Neil's tried to find him and he was offside. Same against Accrington, and it's kind of the same story in quite a few games. If he just knocks that out of his game a little bit, I think he could get maybe 5 more goals this season. But ultimately, he got his goals. Work rate was good, so I think it was 7 for Stewart.
Yeah, same. I think you hit the nail on the head. Great finish. I didn't think the service was as good to him into the box. It seemed to go the other way. But yeah, the offsides are frustrating. Maybe I can live with maybe once or twice. But in fairness, he knows and we know he's got the pace to outrun defenders and the strength. So there's no need to be caught offside. And I think that is something that the coaches will look at and maybe put into practice in training and saying just give yourself 2 yards, because you will. These are not fast defenders in by any stretch. They may be strong. You're strong and fast. You just need to just pick your moments, because we've got McGeady, Embleton, Neil. They will be threading, cracking balls through. But there's nothing worse than it going through and the flag going up. After some great play. So yeah, that's maybe my only criticism of him today. But yeah, 7 out of 10.
Yeah. I think it's harder to pick a man of the match today. Probably harder because it did finish 2-2. And I'm going to assume you're not going to go with Bailey White. But based off the fact I've given him 8 out of 10, I suppose I'll go with Undyne.
I'll probably have to go with the goalkeeper. I thought he was very, very sure, because I've given him, the highest mark.
Yeah.
That's obviously I can't do myself out of that, can I? So I've got to stick with my guns.
Yeah, I mean I've given them both an 8, so I kind of get away with it. But yeah, I think out of them 2, I think possibly Hoffman just edges it actually. Especially if we'd actually won the game, I think it would have been Hoffman after that save in the second half. But ultimately, it didn't really matter. But Tuesday, Wigan away in the cup. Sunderland A team versus Sunderland B team, essentially. Predictions for that one?
2-2, and it goes to penalties, and we win that.
We win on penalties. Does it go to penalties, does it?
Yeah, I think it's straight to penalties. Carabao Cup. Oh, it might be extra time first. There's only one.
Is it the FA Cup that do replays? There's one of the cups that do replays, aren't there? Or did, I don't know if they still do.
I'll just say Sunderland 2-1 win then. Charlie White will score as well, just to piss us all off.
Max power, 35 yards. Just
shank. Yeah. Yeah, I think Tuesday we've got to just use the squad. I think maybe a few of them do actually need, I wouldn't say a rest, but maybe just a mental, freshness for a week.
Yeah.
Because I think now the games do come thick and fast. We are playing sort of two games a week now. So everyone's going to be needed. Everyone's going to get games, regardless of whether you think they should play. But it's definitely a game we need to bed in. I'd love to start Dayaku. Obviously, I've never seen him play in my life, but
Yeah.
you've got to be half decent, and we're only looking for a player
Bayern
to,
Munich, yeah.
We've got the players behind them to play through balls. There's no reason why he can't slot in. There's obviously a few others, and if we lose, I'm not really too fast. I'm not going to have a massive breakdown over it. But we seem to, even when we change up these games, even under Parkinson, I remember George Dobson masterclass at Sheffield United. Those types of games. So I'm not expecting too much. It's just a game. I think it's a bit of a free hit for us. So let's use it as that and see where we are. Sort of Thursday, Friday for squad boys.
Yeah. Well, we will be back with possibly a preview for the Wigan game if I can get a hold of someone. It is proving very difficult at the moment. But if not, we'll be back next Sunday, potentially, to talk about the Bolton game, which is the next league game that we have, of course, at home, I do believe. But until then, we will see you later.
That's all, folks.